Thanks for tuning in and watching today as I share with you about my addiction. That's right, a Christian pastor, Christian counselor being addicted. I think you'll be surprised to hear what I was addicted to. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share with your friends. Thanks. I want to talk to you about addiction, my addiction. I had a personal addiction, and prior to becoming a Christian, I had lots of addictions. Before I really encountered the Lord in 20 years old, I had some major addictions. But that's somewhat more acceptable because you're unregenerated. Nobody really expected that. But as a Christian, particularly as a Christian pastor and as a counselor, you wouldn't be expecting to hear me today say, I want to tell you about my addiction. But that's what I want to talk to you about. Hello, my name is Burzynski, and I want to just share a little bit about myself today and maybe some things that you wouldn't expect to discover about somebody like myself. I've been an ordained pastor for 38 years, been in ministry for 40 years, began counseling about 35 years ago. Before I came to the current ministry that I've been working in, which has been 19 years ago, I did some spiritual warfare counseling, some what would be considered satanic ritual abuse. So I've worked with people that have been shattered by satanic ritual, very personal, very close to home to me. I've actually had family members that have experienced that horrific situation. And it wasn't until 2000 that I came to really understand identity truths and my identity in Christ, what I call the Christ life. And I've been helping people ever since to identify, understand, and live in their identity. That being said, I want to talk to you today about some discoveries that I've been making about myself because of a journey that I've been recently on. I want to talk to you about addiction, my addiction. I had a personal addiction, and prior to becoming a Christian, I had lots of addictions. Before I really encountered the Lord in 20 years old, I had some major addictions. But that's somewhat more acceptable because you're unregenerated. Nobody really expected that. But as a Christian, particularly as a Christian pastor and as a counselor, you wouldn't be expecting to hear me today say, I want to tell you about my addiction. But that's what I want to talk to you about. And honestly, this particular addiction, I really wasn't aware that I had it. So, over the course of the last few years, I've attempted to, I don't want to say necessarily go on diets, but what I would like to call them, I'd like to do push-aways. Push away from the dining room table. And last year in particular, for about 6 months, I was doing push-aways, and I was riding my bike anywhere from 50 to 100 miles a week. And, I'd lost like 30 pounds, and I felt so good. And then it got to the fall, and I got busy with the ministry retreat, and then I went on a trip to Turkey and Greece, and there was all this food. Needless, and of course, I back up, before that it was Thanksgiving and Christmas. So, needless to say, I found myself having regained all that weight and then some. And I was like, I've talked about it for months. I need to really do something about this. This isn't good for my health. And I've had heart issues. The 2 years or the 3-4 years prior to that, I was in the hospital like 6 times, had 2 different heart procedures for AFib, and had cardioversions and ablation surgeries. And so, overweight, obesity can contribute to that. I had blood clots in my legs, and so anyway, I've had some health issues. And so, I've been saying, I need to do something, and wasn't doing anything. And so at the beginning of this month, I'd come back from visiting my mother, and some of the family went with me, and we went out to eat, and it was a disaster. Um, the service wasn't that great, and so the supervisor came by, asked how things were, and I said it wasn't your best night. And then my mom spoke up and told him really the way it was, and he said, no, I want to make it right. So he brings out all this triple chocolate cake and ice cream, and I wasn't even eating that kind of stuff. But this is interesting because part of what I've discovered with my food addiction, I kind of even this week, even today, as I was kind of talking it through with the Lord, kind of trying to discover, okay, well, what's the source of this? Obviously, it just didn't happen in the last year or so. This has been an ongoing thing that I didn't even recognize. And I remember, and the Lord kind of helped me to see, ever since childhood. I was the oldest of 7, and we were a poor family, and food was not, plenteous. We always had enough to eat. I'm not trying to say that parents didn't provide, they did. But Dad used to have a unique thing. We'd sit around the family table, and we always had meals together, and he used to say, the one who eats the fastest gets the mostest. And I always took it literally as a kid. And, after we prayed, we'd dive in that food, and I'd be eating that stuff just as fast. The other thing about my upbringing is if it was on your plate, you had to finish that food. You could not leave it on the plate. It was not acceptable. And so in those days, we didn't have garden anything. We had canned peas, and I could not stomach peas. And so Dad would make me I remember sitting till 8, 9 o'clock at night with those peas on my plate, almost gagging, trying to finish those peas. So it was ingrained in me early that you don't waste food and you finish what's on your plate. So that's always been, and I always ate fast my whole life. And I always ate a lot. And then when I raised a family, I had 7 children. I now have 7 grandchildren. So it was always kind of customary if something's left over, put it on Dad's plate, he'll eat it. And I would, So, and never thinking that much of it, not watching intake, calories, whatever. Just loving food, not realizing that it had become a comfort to me. That, I also recognized from those early days that I really wanted my Father's approval. I wanted his acceptance. And, as a kid, I didn't feel like I was getting that. And so, if I could finish that plate, that was just one thing. If I could do other things to impress him and, make him feel good about me. So food has kind of subtly become this comfort to me, and I didn't even realize that it did. So like I said, it's actually been 28 days ago. I came back from seeing my mom. I was terrible heavy. I said, man, I got to do something about this. So I kind of was a little more careful the next few days. My one leg had swollen up, like fluid water. And I said, man, that's not cool. And then my son gave me a doctor's video on why that happens, and it was liver. And I'm like, oh. So I watched that. There were some suggestions about diet, intake, So I began to do that. There were some other things relative to having to get up too many times during the night. Watched another video of that, also diet. So I began to watch some of those videos, and I realized, one healthy thing you could do is fast. Well, it's probably been 35 years ago. I went on a 21-day fast. It was called the Daniel fast. It was actually for a research project for Christian ministry. And so I went to the doctor every week and blood tests and all that kind of stuff. And it was amazing. Back then, I was much younger, and I lost 33.5 pounds in 21 days. It was amazing. But it's very difficult because I worked outside in the heat. Now I'm in a counseling office. I'm a Christian counselor, and I'm in air conditioning. And so it should be easy here, right? So anyway, after that first week, I decided I'm going to start doing what's considered intermittent fasting, which basically means you eat one meal a day. Now, I'd never done that in my life. But I found out that some of the stereotypes that we've been taught aren't really true. For example, the most important meal of the day is breakfast. And these doctors said that's just not true. That you should wait until you're absolutely hungry to eat, and they were recommending that your first meal should be at 11:30 during the day. So I thought, I'm going to try it. So I did. And I ate a nice leafy spinach salad with some non-mercury tuna and some healthy mixed nuts. And that was it. Oh, and a banana. And I kind of did that for a few days. Now I was like, ugh, this is a little bit tough, but I found out I was losing 1 pound a day on that intermittent fasting. And then he said, you'll get to the place where you'll be able to eat every other day. So it wasn't like 3 days. I said, I don't feel like I have to eat today, so I'm going to wait till the next day. And so I did. And then it was on a Friday. I had lunch. I didn't eat Saturday, and because it was going to be Father's Day on Sunday, and the family was going to take me out. And of all places, we went to an Italian restaurant. Now I love Italian food. I love all food. I used to be on a seafood diet. If I saw it, I ate it. So we went to this beautiful Italian restaurant and didn't know what to order. So the recommendation was this sampler. Oh my, the thing was mammoth. And of course, all this food. Now I really couldn't finish it all, but it's programmed in my mind. If it's on your plate, you finish it. I finished everything. And I felt like a hot air balloon. Actually, I felt more like a baby elephant. And I was stuffed. So Monday, I said, no, I'm not eating Monday. I got to make up for this and get back on track. So I didn't eat Monday. And then Tuesday came, and I said, well, I'll wait till 11:30, 12 o'clock to have my first meal. And I came around that time, it's like, why are you going to eat? You're okay. Just do this. So I didn't eat Tuesday. So what I'm trying to help you to understand is I didn't plan this. This was kind of more out of the spontaneity of my life. I do teach and practice and experience Christ as my life, so I'm always communicating with Jesus. It's not like I just independently tried to do this on my own, because that's not what happened, you see. And so then Wednesday came, and I was kind of like curious. I know the first 3 days of what's considered an absolute fast, which is just water. Now I did put my apple cider vinegar and my organic lemon in the water, because I've been doing that for years. I did have my 2 cups of coffee in the morning. I wasn't going to be crazy about it. But third day came Wednesday, and I'll admit I was struggling. The first 3 days were the hardest. I had to take a nap that afternoon, but I went all the way through Wednesday. So that was 3 days, absolute fast. So now I'm like, I'm going to see how, I was going to take it 1 day at a time, see how long I could do this. And so Thursday came, Friday came, Saturday came, Sunday came, Monday came, Tuesday came, Wednesday came, Thursday came. So today's a Friday. We're filming this on a Friday. And it's been 12 days of fasting now. Water only. And of course I had the intermittent fasting prior to that. But in 28 days, I have lost 31 pounds. That's amazing. And there are so many health benefits. And frankly, I'll get into more detail. I kind of want to make this first aspect of this more of kind of just a testimony. And then I'll get into some of the practical health and psychological and spiritual realities of what a fast kind of enhances and helps. But one of the things that I've begun to realize is how significantly this is affecting my body. I can tell for sure I have no inflammation in my body. I've seen I used to have blood clots in my legs. My legs have shrunken. I have no water in them. I've lost significant belly fat. I mean, I had to get smaller pants and smaller shirts and my face and my neck. I mean, and I feel absolutely wonderful. And I remember back now when I did that 21-day fast years ago, when you hit somewhere between the 11th day, you get this energy surge. And there's no more hunger pain whatsoever. That's gone like third, fourth day. It used to be just the mental thing. The mental thing's fine. Now, if I go by a restaurant, I smell food. Of course, it's like, oh yeah, that smells good. But I'm not tempted because I'm on a mission with the Lord. And He's already said, now, Don, why don't we just go and do 21 days again? So I'm looking forward to at least 21 days, and I'll evaluate it at that point. I might go further. We'll just see how I feel. I just wanted to share that with you to encourage you that, you know, here I was, a Christian pastor, a Christian counselor, therapist, didn't really understand that I had an addiction. And I like to share with people now, I had an addiction. I had a food addiction. I ate 3 times a day and snacked. And, you know, that food was killing me. And so, you know, too much of anything is not good. And I think, particularly as Americans, I think, you know, we're an obese society and we kind of give ourselves all kind of excuses for it. And I did that. You know, tomorrow I'm going to turn 66 years old, so I've done it for a long time. So I hope this will encourage you, and we're going to have follow-up videos on the benefits of fasting that will follow. Thank you so much.